As Africa's leading defense news portal, DefenceWeb aims to give you the latest updates on African defense, the South African National Defense Force, and the defense industry. In this week's edition on the continent, 15 crew are kidnapped in the Gulf of Guinea, and the US military will train Mozambican soldiers. In SANDF news, the Department of Defense website is up again but full of glitches. Over 1 billion rand in irregular, fruitless, and wasteful Department of Defense expenditure is under investigation. Defense intelligence effectiveness is questioned. Military veterans are to be part of a rail infrastructure protection project. Ramaphosa authorises the extension of SA's continental military deployments. The SA Air Force Museum air shows a no-go for the second year running. South Africa loses 2 veteran pilots in a crash. The public protector is also on the Interferon trail, and Mapisa-Nqakula's sexual exploitation and abuse task team proposes a small start for Defense Sexual Misconduct Center. And in industry news, Satcom launches a new hammerhead radio, ideal for a variety of built-in applications, including marine, and the National Defense Industry Council updates Parliament on initiatives to support the defense industry. In African defense news, 15 crew kidnapped in Gulf of Guinea. The Gulf of Guinea remains one of the most dangerous bodies of water worldwide for seafarers, with the International Maritime Bureau urging ships and crew transiting it to remain alert and not let their guard down. The warning follows a report of seafarers kidnapped from a tanker off Benin in the second week of March. Pirates boarded an underway Maltese-flagged chemical tanker about 210 nautical miles south of Continental and kidnapped 15 out of 21 crew members. The International Maritime Bureau said this attack could signal reignition of serious kidnapping incidents in the Gulf of Guinea after 4 weeks of relatively low activity. This is in the wake of earlier heightened kidnapping activity in the region. US military training Mozambican armed forces. The maritime component of the armed forces for the defense of Mozambique is on the receiving end of training from the US Special Operations Forces. This is according to a statement issued by the US Embassy in Maputo on the 15th of March. The embassy said the 2-month joint combined exchange training program launched on the 15th of March will see Mozambican Marines benefit from the experience and knowledge of US Special Forces to up their skill levels in support of efforts by South Africa's eastern neighbor to prevent the spread of terrorism and violence extremism. Mozambique is embroiled in fighting in its capital Delgado province, where Islamic extremists reportedly forced 670,000 people from their homes and killed a further 2,000. Islamists have also taken control of villages and towns, including the port of Masinga da Praia. The province is home to major oil and gas developments from offshore farms. In SANDF news, Department of Defense website up again, but full of glitches. Following a 6-month hiatus, the Department of Defense website is up again, but is riddled with glitches and not particularly well populated with information. The site, which was previously not accessible apparently due to contractual disagreements with service providers, has a new look. Featured in photos, but not yet with the appropriate career and personal information, are Defense and Military Veterans Minister Mapisa-Nqakula, her Deputy Thabang Makwetla, her Secretary for Defense Gladys Soto-Kujo, and outgoing SA National Defense Force Chief General Solly Sholke. There is currently no information in the Department of Defense and Defense Secretariat portals. Previously separate service websites, example army.mil.sa and navy.mil.sa, redirect to the homepage of the Department of Defense website. The only portal currently populated is Documents, where the long-delayed 2019/20 annual report resides, along with the report of the Ministerial Sexual Abuse and Exploitation Task Team released earlier this month in March to coincide with International Women's Day. Over 1 billion in irregular, fruitless, and wasteful Department of Defense expenditure under investigation. The Department of Defense is investigating 7 cases of unauthorized, fruitless, wasteful, and irregular expenditure amounting to around 1.5 billion rand. Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Defense and Military Veterans heard. In a presentation to the Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Defense and Military Veterans on the 17th of March, the Department of Defense gave an update on measures to combat corruption and fraud and provided an overview of the status of corruption and fraud in the department, as well as irregular expenditure. One case of irregular expenditure concerns a PricewaterhouseCoopers contract for asset management worth 604 million rand. In June 2020, a forensic company was appointed to investigate. The investigation is ongoing with involvement from the Department of Defense Inspector General. The Inspector General is looking into a 239 million rand through life cycle management contract from the 2015 to 2019 timeframe. Investigations into 447 million rand worth of asset management contracts from 2017 to 2019 are finalized, ratified by the principals, and due processes are being followed, the Department of Defense said. Information and communications technology contracts worth 216.7 million rand for information and communications technology services and licenses for 2018/19 were flagged as bids that were not evaluated according to criteria stipulated in bid documentation. The Department of Defense said cases are registered with the military police. Additionally, the Special Investigating Unit and Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation, better known as the Hawks, are investigating. Defense intelligence effectiveness question. The lack or withholding of intelligence from the wider defense sector resulted in at least 7 disasters or embarrassments for the Defense and Military Veterans Minister Mapisa-Nqakula last year, a contributor to a National Assembly debate on crime and other intelligence maintains. Democratic Alliance Shadow Minister for Mapisa-Nqakula's portfolio, listed the theft of weapons and ammunition from tech base in Centurion, actual information leading to the death of Collins Corsa, and unlawfulness of abusing a SA Air Force Falcon 900 bizjet, illegal and unauthorized smuggling of Cuban medication, the pace of dilapidation of SA National Defense Force capabilities in breach of the Constitution, an urgent need for increased and improved border safeguarding capabilities, and the unacceptable destruction of strategic communication capabilities at Silvermine as being disasters or embarrassments. These, he said, were among reports over the past few years which put into question the quality and reliability of information gathered by defense intelligence and made available to the Commander-in-Chief, President Ramaphosa, Minister Mapisa-Nqakula, and the Military Command Council. Military veterans to be part of Rail Infrastructure Protection Project. Efforts proposed by Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula to protect rail infrastructure include military veterans working with railway police on long-distance train corridors. It is one of a number of interventions to strengthen security for the public assets of physical infrastructure, including rails, electronic switching equipment, pylons and towers, buildings, and the millions of kilometers of cabling comprising the national rail network. Mbalula do not go into any great detail on the use of military veterans, apart from saying 80 of them will be deployed in 47 long-distance rail corridors, according to SA News, the government news agency. Long-distance train corridors will exclusively make use of the existing railway police contingent. A total of 80 military veterans will be deployed in these 46 corridors, where they will be performing duties of corridor coordination. Mbalula is reported as saying at the launch of the People's Responsibility to Protect program in Pretoria. The program, according to SA News, aims to create partnerships between the Passenger Railway Agency of SA and local communities near railway lines. Communities will provide an additional force multiplier for Passenger Rail Agency of SA security to protect rail infrastructure. Ramaphosa authorises extension of SA's continental military deployments. The South African flag will continue to be seen on the soldiers of airmen, military medics and soldiers, and fly above bases they operate from in the DR Congo until the end of March next year. This is according to a 16th of March letter from Commander-in-Chief President Cyril Ramaphosa to National Assembly Speaker Thandi Modise, authorizing fulfillment of international obligations towards the UN. The letter gives the presidential thumbs up for 957 SA National Defense Force personnel to be in the Central African country under the Operation Mistral tasking as part of both the UN mission MONUSCO and its Force Intervention Brigade. The allocation of South African military personnel to its largest peace support mission will cost 818,504,388 rand for the 1st of April to the 31st of March period, according to the presidential missive. SA Air Force Museum Air Show, a no-go for the second year running. Lockdown Level 1 does not open the door for the SA Air Force Museum to stage its major fundraiser, the annual air show, and its military aviation enthusiasts will have to wait and see if the event takes place at all this year. This is the second year running the popular air show has not been staged in its usual May slot due to the coronavirus pandemic and the national states of disaster regulations. Confirmation of cancellation in the form of a message from the AFB SWAT Corps museum reads, SA Air Force Museum would like to host its annual air show as it allows the unit to generate much needed funds that help to maintain the Air Force's historic flight. The current national and global pandemic continues to frustrate all plans. To date, it is safe to say that 2021 installment will not happen, at least not in May. Sad day for SA military aviation. Wednesday, 17th of March 2021 will go down in history as a sad day for SA's military aviation fraternity, marked by the death of 2 top pilots in a crash while apparently attempting to land a one-of-a-type aircraft at AFB SWAT Corps in Centurion. The pilots were retired SA Air Force Major General Des Barker, widely known as having by far the most aircraft types of any SA Air Force pilot in his lengthy logbook, and former Indian Air Force fighter pilot Rama Iyer. Before moving to the SA Civil Aviation Authority, Iyer was part of the Air Force's training directorate and a regular visitor to the SA Air Force Museum, where he was current on a number of aircraft, including the Patchen Explorer. This is the aircraft with himself and Barker aboard that crashed on approach, killing both. Public protector also on the Interferon trail. The apparently illegal acquisition of a Cuban drug by the SA National Defense Force will be investigated by the public protector. The investigation was prompted by Democratic Alliance parliamentarian Cobus Morea, following non-invasive answers offered by senior officers, including Surgeon General Lieutenant General Sola Tabula, at Parliament's Joint Standing Standing Committee on Defense. Maria was in mid-March informed of the Chapter 9 institution's decision to look deeper into the Interferon acquisition issue. Correspondence on the matter from a senior investigator in the form of an advocate with Maria states, "On pursuit of your complaint, the irregular procurement by the SANDF in the purchase of Interferon from Cuba was identified for investigation. The correspondence does not give any timeline for the investigation, stating only that progress will be reported as the case progresses." The man who initiated the involvement of the public protector told Defense Web he was pleased about the investigation as another development in what has been called smuggling by an organ of government to bring an unregistered drug into the country. Mapisa-Nqakula's Sexual Exploitation and Abuse Task Team proposes a small start for Defense Sexual Misconduct Center. One recommendation of the ministerially appointed task team on sexual exploitation and abuse in the SA National Defense Force is the establishment of a sexual misconduct center separate from the military. The 124-page report states a civilian-led victim empowerment and support sexual misconduct center outside of the chain of command must be created. The report authors maintain sexual misconduct centers are best practice and propose the South African one, when and if established, will report directly to the Office of the Minister, currently Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula. On the Sexual Misconduct Center, the report notes it must be victim-centered, independent of the chain of command, and staffed with people with appropriate training and capacity for referrals and to deal with trauma. The Sexual Misconduct Center will house a 24/7 victim support line and be responsible for prevention, coordination, victim support, monitoring and evaluation, and research in relation to sexual offences. It continues, adding, a few defence forces instituted independent centres as best practice for reporting sexual exploitation and abuse allegations and providing victim support. The task team cites sexual misconduct centres in the Australian and Canadian Defence Forces as worthy models to emulate. And in industry news, Satcom launches new hammerhead radio. Namibian radio specialist Satcom has developed a new radio based on its flagship Leopard, which it says offers greater flexibility for fixed and mounted installations, particularly in the maritime environment. According to Satcom's managing director David Brown, the hammerhead came about in response to a customer who said the Leopard software-defined radio is well suited to marine operations with its VHF capability. Still, the radio required a better user interface, resulting in the new hammerhead. This opens up the marine market for us, he said. The hammerhead radio builds on the successful Leopard 1, which features frequency hopping communications in the HF, VHF, and UHF bands. The new device offers improved ergonomics for mounted solutions. It has an enlarged display that improves viewing distance and an enlarged keypad for ease of operation whilst in a mobile vehicle or a boat on choppy water. NDIC updates Parliament on initiatives to support the defence industry. The National Defence Industry Council, or NDIC, has updated Parliament's Joint Standing Committee on Defence on its initiatives from small arms manufacturing to alternative funding models that will help the struggling South African defence industry. The NDIC was launched by the Minister of Defence and Military Veterans Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula in March 2016, with the council chaired by the Secretary for Defence. The National Defence Industry Council consists of senior government officials, captains of industry, and the South African Aerospace, Maritime and Defence Industries Association. It has been tasked with developing a defence industry strategy and a plan for implementation to develop and transform the industry. The council originates from an appreciation that the local defence industry cannot exist and develop effectively on its own without the targeted support and direction of government. Dr. Moses Kanyile, National Defence Industry Council Coordinator, told the Parliament's Joint Standing Committee on Defence at the beginning of March that there are several initiatives linked to the Defence Industry Master Plan that are being implemented to assist the sector. One of these is the resource-based alternative funding model, which would see countries purchasing equipment in exchange for resources such as minerals. This model was presented to key stakeholders, including National Treasury, Kanyile said. The initiative has been tested for feasibility and viability through one of its big banks in South Africa, which confirmed the model is feasible, he added. In the next couple of weeks, the National Defence Industry Council will be developing a criteria to pilot the initiative with the bank. A concerted effort is being made to support the production of certain military hardware, including small caliber weapons and ammunition in South Africa. The Department of Defence previously said there is a need for the consolidation of all user requirements, especially the law enforcement agencies, which will help with economies of scale. Armscorp would essentially procure weapons and ammunition for all security cluster departments and agencies. Kanyile stated the Department of Trade and Industry, which is responsible for designating products for local production, supports the initiative and is waiting for further guidance from the main crime prevention and security cluster. Kanyile said the challenges in the industry are huge and are getting worse by the day. The South African defence industry is facing serious challenges of sustainability, the mass exodus of highly skilled personnel, a shrinking market share, and the inability to sustain strategic and sovereign capabilities of the SANDF. Most of these challenges are directly linked to the massive decline in the SANDF's budget and the imminent closure of the Special Defense Account, as well as Denel's financial liquidity crisis, which affects its credit rating and the ability to raise capital. The issue of closure of the Special Defense Account is a very serious matter that will be a serious blow to the country from a national security perspective. In terms of the ability of the SANDF to manage its projects, Kanyile said, the whole defense supply chain will collapse. The NDIC feels the closure of the Special Defense Account needs to be given another look, as it has many more implications than initially thought. It will be tantamount to shutting down the SA defense industry because most of the SANDF's projects tend to be multi-year in nature. Therefore, the decision to close the Special Defense Account should be reconsidered, he said. Kanyile warned that if the industry is not able to sustain itself, there will be massive job losses, closure of defense-related companies, highly skilled personnel will be lost to the international labor market, and the cost of supporting the SANDF will rise with forex-based imports. The SANDF will also have the difficulty with maintenance, repair, and overall, as there will not be enough skilled personnel to deal with defense equipment. South Africa's international standing as a recognized defense technology producer will be determined with no prospects for ever regaining it in the future, because what we have in the country today was built over many years, and once it is destroyed, it will be economically and financially impossible to bring it back. There is an urgent need for an industry irregular, which will involve the executive authority or shareholders from the Department of Defense and the Department of Public Enterprises. Kanyile added that the concepts of a Team South Africa and Buy Local need to be promoted. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, our daily and weekly newsletter, and our other social media platforms if you enjoyed the webcast. Leave your comments below. Thank you for listening, stay safe, and we'll see you next week.